Crime is ruining our communities. We have a crime crisis throughout New York State. And I hear that from everyone I speak to. I see that in polling data. I have telephone town halls. I do retail campaigning. Crime is the number one issue. People are afraid to take the subway. I have a 15-point crime intervention and prevention plan. You can't solve any other problem in society unless you address crime first. The mayor of New York City is trying to address crime, but he doesn't have a partner in the state, and the state laws are having a very negative impact on crime. And my 15-point plan is about fixing bail reform to give judges the discretion to consider dangerousness. It's about addressing the mental health problems that we face in the state related to homelessness and crime as well, but also just addressing mental health overall. It's about getting the guns off the streets. And it's about long-term fixing our education system, where we've left children behind for generations, that we don't educate them properly. And as a result, 75% of the people in jail have a drug, alcohol, or mental health problem. 50% of the people in jail have a learning disability. We can address that problem. I have a proven record of developing comprehensive plans to address thorny problems. And finally, New York State's the most corrupt state in the United States of America. The past 3 governors left in scandal, the previous attorney general, the previous lieutenant comptroller, Shelley Silver, Joe Bruno, Dean Skelos. The current lieutenant governor is there because the previous lieutenant governor was arrested for bribery and corruption after being in office for only 8 months. So I really would like to ask you from different ethnic media that have joined my call. Many of you I know already, but I would like you to try and help us get the message out there about the Suozzi candidacy as a proven executive who gets things done, a common sense Democrat focused on crime, taxes and affordability, helping our troubled schools, and going after the corruption in New York State. Okay, so I'll open it up for any questions you may have.
I have a question.
Yes, Dr. Renee Amera.
Yes, hi, Congressman Suozzi. You've come on my show many times when I was in ITV. Now I do a lot of social media and Queens Public Television on quality of life issues. My question to you is, how are you going to address public safety? And what's your take on the Clean Slate Act? And number 2, how do you want to reframe new conversations in the education system, meaning what plan do you have for value-based education rather than what we're seeing right now?
So number 1 is that I oppose the Clean Slate Act. I don't like the way it's been set up. I like the idea of people having second chances, especially if they've had low-level offenses. But the way that they've drafted this law, people could commit murder and it wouldn't be in your record going forward. That doesn't make any sense. You could be convicted of a sex offense and you're not required to report that when you're seeking a job as a teacher or a childcare worker. So that doesn't make any sense either. So I have, as I said earlier, Doctor, I have a 15-point crime intervention and prevention plan. As a practical matter, everybody on this call knows people are fed up with the idea that people are getting arrested and they get let out right away, and then they get arrested again, and they get let out right away, and they get arrested again. We need to fix the bail reform laws. We need to give judges the discretion to consider dangerousness, the same as it is in 49 other states in the United States of America, the same as it is in federal government. I served as the county executive in Nassau County. I ran the 12th largest police department in the country, bigger than Detroit or Boston. When I left, we had the lowest crime rate in the country for any community over 500,000 people. I know what I'm doing. And it's about short-term things, like giving the judges the discretion. It's about getting the mentally ill, people that are a danger to themselves and others, off the streets and getting the medication they need and getting the support services they need. It's about getting the guns off the streets by doing gun buyback programs and working with community policing. But it's also about long-term things we need to do to change our education system so that we bring all of our health and human services. We spend billions of dollars on health and human service programs. We need to bring them into our schools to help our children at a young age who don't necessarily have the family support that they need to be successful. We should be encouraging strong families, but for those folks that don't have strong families, we have to use the existing resources we have to help them navigate the bureaucracy to get the services they need. There's no more money. We already have the highest taxes in America. We already spend more per student than any state in the country, but our results are no better. We need to change our mindset to work on prevention to help our children at a young age before their little problems become big problems. And we also need to work on 66% of New Yorkers don't graduate from college. Work on. Hey, Wen, could you go on mute? 66% of New Yorkers do not graduate from college. So we want to encourage kids to go to college. And we want to encourage STEM, and we want to encourage the gifted and talented programs. We want to encourage high performing schools to do well, but we have to help those lower performing schools and help kids to not only have a chance to have a good education, but also a chance to learn a job skill, to become a plumber or an electrician or a steam fitter or a welder or a computer programmer even, or a radio frequency operator or quality control expert. We can give people training so they can get those jobs to make good wages. Okay. Nabaraj?
Tom, this is Casey. We spoke with you a few days back.
Hey, Casey.
How are you, sir? So I'm very glad to be here to ask you a simple question about the immigration. Since I'm a Nepali community leader, I have a lot of folks, they have been dealing with asylum case pending and many other immigration applications that are pending. How would you address in order to speed up those cases once you become a governor?
Well, one of the reasons. Go ahead.
Another question. Yes.
Well, one of the reasons I'm running for governor is because I'm fed up with the fact that we haven't addressed immigration for 30 years in America. When I was first mayor of Glen Cove, I started the first day worker shape-up center anywhere on the East Coast of the United States of America, because I didn't see the federal government doing its job. And I became the New York Immigration Coalition's Person of the Year for the work I did on immigration. My father was born in Italy. I'm a first-generation American. My father lived a great American success story despite tremendous discrimination that he faced in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I have a great heart for immigrants because of my own personal experience. As governor, I will make immigration a national priority. The governor of New York State has a voice to address national issues, and immigration will be one of my biggest priorities to try and interject myself into the national conversation to get the federal government to do a much better job on the issues you brought up, as well as reaching a compromise to deal with the undocumented and border security. So that's a very big priority for me. I'm confident that I know how to do it based on my experience working on immigration issues throughout my entire career.
And one more quick question I'm going to ask you, Tom.
Let me just point out one other thing.
Yeah.
See. When Kathy Hochul was the Erie County clerk in the 1990s, and maybe it was the 2000s, she said that she would report the undocumented to ICE. Elliot Spitzer at the time was saying we should give driver's licenses to the undocumented. She said, if anybody comes to me who's undocumented, I will report them to ICE.
Wow.
So what does that tell you about her character? Okay.
Yeah, you're right. And what about the Our City, Our Vote? That is going to be implemented in the 5 boroughs in New York City. So what do you think about all over New York State? What's your take on that?
I don't support that. I think that voting should be for citizens.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Did you want to say something? Hi, Lee, Ms. Lee.
Hi, glad to meet you, and it's honor to be with you today.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. Yeah, I came from AM 116, the New York radio station, AM 1660 radio station. I think we interviewed you a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to know, like, especially the subway, without reason, people just slashing each other and they pushing people to the track, but nobody know who will push me or who will slash me. So people feel fear to take a subway. So do I also. So I want to know, how can you handle especially the subway crime and the hate crime for the Asian? And second question is, compared to other country, the United States college tuition is so expensive. So European or Asian, they're almost like a free, or one semester is less than 5,000. But United States college is way much expensive than other countries. So you encourage people to educate well and encourage to go to college, but how can you afford, who cannot handle that? And my third question is, are you agree with the SAT program for high school?
Okay, so 감사합니다. Thank you very much. And I agree with you 100%. The number one issue in this campaign is crime and public safety, and the crime in the subways and the fear that it is causing is not only terrible for people who have to worry about it. I worry about my daughter who lives in Manhattan every time she takes the subway. My son took the subway the other night and his phone wasn't working. And we were worried, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Because his phone wasn't working. And we were so worried about the crime in the subways. So every family is going through that. Every husband and wife is going through that. Everybody's worried about that. And that's stopping New York City's economy from coming back. That's stopping people from riding the subway. This is having all kinds of negative impacts on our society. We have to go back to the basics of putting police officers on the subway trains. We have to get the mentally ill people that are a danger to themselves and a danger to other people out of the subways and off the streets and taking their medication. So those are all part of my 15-point crime intervention and prevention plan. The most important thing, it's my number one priority. The current governor, the current state legislature, they're not even treating this like a priority. It's an afterthought. The mayor wants to make it a priority. Arrests are very high, but people are getting arrested and then they get let out right away. So this is a very big priority for me, and I know how to do it. When I was county executive, as I said, I ran the 12th largest police department in the country, bigger than 11 states, bigger than Detroit or Boston. And we reduced the crime to the lowest rate it had been of any community over 500,000 people anywhere in America. So I know what I'm doing. The police commissioner of New York City now actually worked for Nassau County when I was county executive and was promoted up through the ranks when I was county executive. So I'm looking forward to teaming up with the mayor and with the police commissioner and with others to address this plan in a comprehensive way. Number two that you asked about was, what was number two?
The college tuition, who cannot afford it?
We have to make community college more affordable. We can't solve this problem just New York State alone because we already have the highest taxes in the United States of America. So we can't just come up with more money to solve this until we reduce spending in other places. We have the highest taxes in America, and I want to reduce taxes in New York State. But we should focus on making community colleges affordable, almost tuition free, because that's an opportunity for people to have an option to get at least 2 years of education at a very low price. And then if we succeed at that, then we should look at the other state colleges to try and reduce those prices. We can't affect the private colleges. But this is something we need to do at the national level. But like so many things at the national level, nothing's getting done. And number three, I believe in standardized testing. And I think that we should be helping to get people into high quality programs like gifted and talented programs. But we should be expanding those opportunities. People say, well, there's not enough African Americans, there's not enough Latinos in the gifted and talented. Let's try and get more in, and let's do more gifted and talented programs. Let's not reduce our gifted and talented. Let's not get rid of our gifted and talented. Let's expand it and try and bring more people in that are qualified. Okay, who's next? Hello, Moshin. How are you, my friend? Assalamu alaikum. So number one, regarding Eric Adams, I endorsed Eric Adams very early. I raised money for him. I campaigned for him. He actually asked me to be his deputy mayor because he knows I know how to run things. He knows I know how to get things done in government. And that you asked if I'm disappointed that he didn't endorse me. Well, there's an old saying in politics: if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. So you really can't count on anybody in politics to do things based upon friendship. And he made a political calculation that he needs to get things from the state. And you talked about like the polling numbers. Well, what the polls don't reflect is the fact that nobody is enthusiastic about Governor Hochul. Nobody's excited about the Buffalo Bills deal. They're not excited that Brian Benjamin got arrested. They're not excited that she's not addressing crime. They're not excited that she's spending so much money and not addressing the tax problem. So she just does not have any enthusiasm for her candidacy. The people that support me are very enthusiastic. There's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for the people that do support me. I think there's going to be a very, very, very low turnout in this race. The last time there was a gubernatorial primary, 1.4 million people showed up. I think less than 800,000 people are going to show up. So the reason I'm reaching out to the ethnic media, and I've done this as well, I've did a separate call with Latinos. I've done another call with the Jewish papers. I've talked to Pakistanis many times. I did a Korean rally the other day. I did a Chinese rally the same day. I'm always reaching out to the Indian community. I'm always reaching out to all the ethnic groups. Why? Because I think that this is a very important time in history. And many of the ethnic communities that have voted Democratic for many years are very concerned that the Democrats are not talking about crime and taxes. And they're not talking about the things that they care about regarding education. And they're sick of the corruption. So I think that the ethnic groups, the new Americans, are very enthusiastic and they want to see change. And they see Tom Suozzi as being a long-term friend and supporter of your community, standing up for people's human rights, talking about the issues they care about, and actually spending time with people. So I'm very excited. And if I'll either be very excited or I'll be disappointed on Wednesday of next week. But right now, I'm still very, very enthusiastic about this campaign. And no, Cuomo's not going to run. Cuomo can't run. He missed the deadlines for filing petitions. He can't run, and he's not going to risk his whole future. He probably still wants to run for president, and he can't risk running and losing. And he would lose if he ran, and he knows that. Yeah. I have talked to so many elected officials, so many union members and leaders, so many groups, and they all say the same thing to me. Tom, we think you're the best candidate. We like you. I'm personally voting for you, but we have to do this. So I feel very confident. I mean, just think about each of the person on this call. Take your journalist hat off for a second and think in your own mind about yourself as a person. Nobody's enthusiastic about Kathy Hochul. She's been in office for 10 months. What's her vision? I say I want to reduce crime, cut taxes, help our schools, and go after the corruption. What are her priorities? I don't know what they are. She said her priorities were to not be Andrew Cuomo and to be more transparent. Well, that hasn't happened. She had the most secretive budget process in 30 years. She gave $1 billion to her friends at the Buffalo Bills, where her husband works for the company that does the concessions for the Buffalo Bills. So, I mean, she's not addressing crime. So nobody's enthusiastic about her campaign, except for the people that do business with the state that are trying to get things from the state. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I had a question again, Congressman. My question was on crime. I just want to pause on that one. A lot of programs in the police department in New York City have been curtailed. Would you be expanding some of the police programs to address crime, especially when we're talking about hate crime or subway crime and crime in general?
You know, I should have mentioned this before. Ms. Lee mentioned about anti-Asian hate. Every community is suffering more hate crimes right now. And I want you to know that this is a very big issue for me. You know, people don't realize that when my father came to America and he fought in World War II, and then he came back home and went to Harvard Law School on the GI Bill in the 1940s. And he couldn't get a job at a law firm. Now, how could that be? You went to Harvard Law School, you couldn't get a job at a law firm? How's that possible? Because the Italians had teamed up with the Germans during World War II. So everybody said, oh, the Italians, they're either with Mussolini or they're in the mafia. And he couldn't get a job at a law firm. And he suffered tremendous discrimination. People don't believe that's possible. But I've read my father's yearbooks and things like that. It was very discriminated against. So I will do everything I can to fight against discrimination and hate crimes against ethnic minorities, against everybody, quite frankly, but ethnic minorities especially. And we'll put in place the programs that are necessary, both from an education point of view, but also immediately for safety purposes, to make sure that people are safe, because hate crimes are the same growing as regular crimes are growing. So we have to address them together. And community policing is the answer. It has to be that the people know the police officers in their communities, and the police officers know the people in the communities. They have to be together. So I will help to expand those programs. Okay, and I see that Ms. Lee wants to do an interview on a radio show after this. I can't do it right away, but we'll set up a time. Jason, contact Ms. Lee directly or Farah, and let's set up a time to do that, okay?
Will do.